Hey everybody, it's the Last Robokai here, and it's time for more Dark Crusade. Time for a very big bit of Dark Crusade, actually, because we're going up against the Tau Stronghold, and the Tau are definitely not going to make it very easy for us at all, which we will very, very quickly see. And joining me on this invasion attempt is Cool Guy, as always.
Yeah, you're gonna enjoy watching this for those of you who have really been into the crunch of the game. I think simply because this was we mentioned it last time. This is one of the most complicated strongholds. Like, it's really clear that Relic wanted to give the Tau a good showing on their first time out. Boy, did they succeed! Like they look so good here.
Yeah, and because it's so long, we'll keep this intro short, so let's get stuck straight in. Get a little bit of detail on Tashin. A lot of the words that you'll find when it comes to the Tau usually has the designation first, then that little apostrophe, and then something afterwards. Although in this particular case, it's written by someone called La Koyon, so I'm not sure, or Kaon. I can't remember how they pronounce it. We'll find out shortly, because that's a very important word when it comes to the combat of the Tau, which I'm going to talk about in great length. Because it doesn't just play into Tau lore or how the Tau play in Dark Crusade. It's literally a fundamental part of choosing your build path as the Tau.
Yep.
And they put it on display.
Yep. The Tau entomology is actually really interesting. Like a lot of Warhammer 40k stuff is just like, well, these are not Tomb Kings. Like, this is something that the Necrons are accused of from time to time, and they've got kind of their own articulation like that. But the Tau have a lot of just bluntly original things happening. It's pretty great, actually.
Just gonna make sure if I have to do another Hunt the Servitors thing, I'm gonna be well armed for it.
Yeah.
Oh dear, because we are about to throw ourselves straight into the mess.
When the tide of war turned against the Tau, they faced attack in their stronghold in the city of Asharis, renamed Tashin by the aliens. The aliens were well entrenched, however, and ready to mount a vigorous defense. Shas Okais, the Tau military leader, made his headquarters in a mighty citadel in the city's center, forcing attackers to wend their way through the tight city streets, exposed to sniper fire and ambushes. Outlying bases in different quarters of the city supported his strategy, with Krut warriors and powerful armored units harassing attackers even further. The Tau's only strategic vulnerability was Unity Plaza, the city's main public space. A sophisticated communications tower there could potentially be used by an attacker to expose the stealth units positioned across the city. Okais knew, however, that his attacker's ultimate objective would be assassination, not conquest. Onel Shiorez, a member of the mysterious ethereal caste, led the Tau forces from the citadel in Tashin. Were he to die, Tau forces would crumble. But as long as the ethereal lived, the Tau would defend Tashin against all comers.
Okais, are the troops ready?
Yes, Ornell. The Earthcast is completing construction of the Montkar command post. Our armored units are ready to deliver the killing blow.
And our Krut allies?
Also ready, Ornell. The Kayun command post in the city's Krut quarter is prepared, and the Shapers have readied the finest of their warriors. Stealth teams are taking position across the city, ready to strike where the enemy is weak. soldiers and Kroot packs will defend the streets and meet the enemy head on.
Excellent, Commander. Patch me through to the troops, please.
Soldiers of the Firecast, Kroot and Vespid allies, today we stand as a bulwark against the selfish, the soulless, and the mad. Today, we must drive back our enemies from our city and from our world. Today, more than ever before, we fight for the greater good, and we will triumph!
Yeah, this is gonna get complicated really
I'm
quickly.
waiting for the sassy opening remarks from Maccabee and
Oh.
Kais. I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's alright. It hasn't happened yet.
Return to the graves that spawned you, monsters.
Gladly. But first, we must help you to yours.
I like that line.
Yowza! That is the sassiest I have ever heard a Necron commander get.
Yeah, well, that's Maccabee, the pariah. So he's got human sass built in.
That was top marks right there.
Yes. So you've heard now, everybody, the two terms, Kayun and Montka. Now these are the two battle strategies that basically dictate everything about the Tau. So these were originally founded by back when the Tau were starting to get their shit together and start to get going and get going up. They're hitting us incredibly hard right now. By a fellow named Puretide. And the thing about Commander Puretide was that he was like the super genius general. And I believe he played a critical part in the first expansion of the Tau outwards from their homeworld. And, they don't live that long. So a lot of his teachings were committed to simulation. So there are still sort of AI teaching stuff.
Montcar command post online, Chazo. Crisis suits ready for combat.
The Kion post is safe in the crew quarter. We will defend it, Commander.
Excellent. Send strike teams at the enemy, but protect your positions.
And so they committed most of it to simulation and things. So I think a lot of people learn a lot of battle strategy from essentially from like simulated Puretide teaching anagrams or whatever you might call them. But there were three particular people who were students, direct students of Puretide in his day, and they are the three very important characters of Farsight, who is a whole other barrel of information regarding the Tau, because he's an example of what happens when the Tau don't have an ethereal around. But also Shadow Sun, who was put into stasis after the Damocles Crusade, and has only been brought out more recently in a more sort of fixed basis during the events of she's come out of stasis a few times for things, but she's really sort of being used now more often in the Tau expansion attempts in the current 40k storyline. And the third, which was sort of a thing started as an almost offhand comment, and I think in one of the Tau victory dialogues in Dark Crusade. But Shaso Kais here is actually also apparently a student, and he's apparently also I went looking at his Wikipedia entry. his wiki entry online, and apparently he is actually
Lexiconum. We're fine.
Well, he's apparently a formally recognized character of Warhammer 40k now, which is kind of funny because Kais is actually like the Tau equivalent of Smith. So you've got Farsight, Shadow Sun, and John Smith learning at the heels of pure tide. And it is worth noting a lot of people have spent a lot of time speculating about the identity of Kais, because the main character of the Fire Warrior game, wherein you played a first-person shooter, wherein you played a Tau Fire Warrior, his name was also Kais, but he was just a mere Fire Warrior. They're not the same person.
Yeah, they are. Even more than that, they're just straight no relation. It's kind of hilarious because like when I remember when I found this out, I made a comment like I realized this is gonna go over some folks' heads who watch us from Europe or your compatriots in Australia. But in America, one of the most popular still remaining radio networks is National Public Radio, NPR, and they, for whatever reason, they have a weird habit of only hiring people as announcers if they have the weirdest names on the planet. Just like one of their most popular people is Terry Gross. And she's a wonderful woman, a very smart, amazing announcer, beautiful voice, but her name is literally Gross. Like you can't get that out of your brain later.
I'm actually familiar with NPR, funnily enough, and I am actually familiar with Terry. As a result of about an hour of like NPR tends to get broadcast on the public broadcasters news radio here around lunchtime. So I usually just before lunchtime. So I usually catch a bit of NPR news and things like that.
The economics block is called Marketplace, and that's hosted by Kai Rizdal.
I love these people.
What is that name, buddy? And then just like out of nowhere, you've got Neil Conan. Neil Conan, at least he used to run Talk of the Nation. I'm actually not sure if he's doing Talk of the Nation anymore. But like Neil Conan, just like one of the simplest and most basic names, just out of nowhere. He's notable just because his name isn't something completely out of left field. And I remember thinking, when I found out that Shaso Kais was a student of Pure Tide, I'm just like, this is the Neil Conan. This is the Neil Conan of all of the Tau. Neil Conan. What's up?
Yeah, so there you go. So like Kais and Shadowsun have often been put into stasis in order to preserve them as direct students for more, pressing campaigns and things like that. And they'll get thawed out, take part in because Tau like to sort of do their battles pretty quickly. Like a Tau campaign doesn't usually stretch on like a campaign the Imperials do. But that again comes down to Montkar and Kayun. So Montkar is Killing Blow. And so the idea behind Montkar is you identify a target of opportunity and you basically make a beeline for it at the exact moment it's vulnerable and hit it really, really hard. Like just one hit, bam, it's gone. So like you might be on standby for a very long period of time waiting for that opportunity. But the idea is at some point, the second it becomes vulnerable, you're in and you hit. So a big part of that is a lot of recon gathering, intel gathering, and things like that. And so the that's why you will often see these heavy vehicles on when they talked about the Montkar base, because talking about the mechanics of Tau in this game, when you reach a certain point late game with the Tau, you have to make a critical decision about how you want your forces composed by either building a Montkar or a Kayun building, and they give you access to different units and a few different upgrades as well, but mostly just different units. And so if you go with the Montkar, you get access to heavy railgun tanks, hammerhead tanks as they're called, and I forget if there's like another vehicle or weapon alongside that as well. I think the Crisis battlesuits are also tied to it. I can't remember.
I can't remember if the Crisis battlesuits are tied to that. The Crisis battlesuits themselves, like I remember them so vividly that my gut says that they're not.
No, I don't think they are. Yeah, but they will hit you pretty hard. I think it's like there's two vehicles I think that are tied to it. Now, if you go with the Kayun, you get access to a lot of Kroot unit stuff, and the Kroot unit stuff is actually, surprisingly, probably the more busted of the stuff.
I mean, the Kroot unit stuff gives like the big strategic difference in terms of the game that's being played is that the Kayun path gives you more stuff to act as blocking forces and soak up melee, and it basically changes the Tau from having, you know, only good blocking forces and tar pitting forces and not an actual real melee threat, to all of a sudden you have some things that if they get into melee, people need to actually deal with that. Like, you need to. It's not just a matter of clearing an obstacle out of the way. It's a matter of, holy crap, he's in my base killing my dudes.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit, because the Kayun is the patient hunter. Apparently, the like from I've got the codex out, so you know I've got paper here with me. If you can hear that, so
yeah, I think I did.
So I've got apparently the words for hunter and patience in the Tau language are derived from the same root, and Kayun is the patient hunter, and essentially the way that works is you use a lure to drive to bring the enemy in, and then destroy them with an ambush. In essence, you basically bring the enemy into a scenario that favors you and destroy them. Now, a lot of people might use the Kroot to do that because the Kroot are very quick and can move across the terrain very quickly. A lot of factions might also go, oh, it's the dumb aliens that like to eat corpses, let's get them, boys. And then the Kroot just sort of slip back, and then you go in forwards, and that's when you're in range of like jump troop landings and things like that, or stealth units that are already set up. And so they pop you pretty hard. So the Kroot are particularly welcome during the patient hunter. So you get a lot of Kroot troops when you build the Kayun complex, and one of the big things about that, of course, is that they get access to the Krootox, which is that thing we were talking about, that thing that you have to worry about. Everybody basically, when the Tau came out, were like, oh, cool, hammerheads and things like that, they're going to be great. But it's actually the very large Kroot gorilla with another Kroot riding on its back, that has like a bazillion hit points and just like sends all your troops flying everywhere and takes 100 years to die, is actually the
Remember those Squigoths that we introduced to y'all, like, back in the base Dawn of War game? Like, it's basically that, only worse, because the dudes behind it actually can shoot.
Yeah, well, the Krootox are also smaller in size, and you can get more of them as well. So that's
true.
That's
yeah.
particularly where they're scary. You all weren't seeing things though. There was a giant T-Rex Kroot in there. I believe they call that the.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, that's I can't even remember its name at the moment, actually, which is really funny to say, because it's not actually an official like unit in the codex. I think it's I'm not even sure if it's actually been put formally in any of the current codex either. But it was a Forge World unit, and they needed something for the Relic unit, so they got it. But
I mean, like I said, during the intro, it's really obvious that Relic wanted to give the Tau a really good first showing, and, you know, like, super power to them. Like they did a great job with it. You just have to realize that during the time the Dark Crusade was coming out, the Tau themselves were still kind of new to the overall Warhammer 40k universe and the Warhammer 40k zeitgeist. So it does not surprise me at all that one of their emblematic units had to come from what amounts to a splat book.
yeah, though I will say, I believe this iteration came out after the second Tau army book, which because the first codex was just called Tau, and I believe the second one was called Tau Empire. And Tau Empire is where the Vespid first got introduced. If you have Tau and you look at it, there's no sign of the Vespid whatsoever. So, because I got the book here and I'm looking at it, and there's no sign of any Vespid. It sort of lays the first book is interesting at the very least because it lays a lot of interesting foundations for the character of the Tau, and one of the interesting things is basically there's this little, you blink and you'll miss it page at the back where a what's his name, a Genitor Secundus of Mechanicus, he basically goes picking through the Tau genome and is like, they should not have evolved this quickly into so many divergent paths. There's got to be some interference somewhere. And I will later on, we will, during, a particularly long conversation, bust out the book Xenology, which is a wonderful book that talks about the different biological makeups of certain races in the 40k universe, and is also secretly a Necron book.
Right, because it turns out that it's the Necrons that are doing a lot of that categorization, right?
Actually, I'll just say it now. It's the story,
right.
but essentially, it's the story of like, I think I'm remembering. I'm trying to remember it off by heart because the book's still upstairs because I own the book. I own the book in Crusade, actually, which makes it all the more interesting to talk about. I probably should talk about this. This is actually where the trouble with the Tau comes from. They have a lot of elevated positions that you can't immediately get to, and they have a lot of stealth units that they can, and other units that they can harass you from on these elevated positions. And so you're going to need to sort of get around them while getting fired on and sort of move up onto there. They've got on-ramps, but they can be very difficult to get to. So you spend a lot of time getting pounded. The upshot of that, at the very least, is that the Tau stealth units aren't super powerful, but taking hits without getting hit back is basically the best place to ever be in any one of these games. So any damage taken without receiving any damage in return is like, that's a net positive for you.
It's all like from an actual play perspective as well. It really bogs down the player because you cannot advance without having all of the tools that you need to make that advance worthwhile. Like the more attentive folks who are watching the video rather than simply listening to this podcasting will have noticed by now that Robokai is being unusually defensive internally this particular mission. That's not because he's just suddenly lost his nerve. It's because if he tries to push forward before he is completely ready, he's just going to make this entire thing last longer.
And it lasts for an hour and 20 minutes.
Right, and it's you can look at at where we're at how long this video is. It could have easily been longer, friends. It could have very easily been longer.
The Tau can very easily pin you down from multiple directions and to destroy you. And I know this as someone who really, really enjoys playing as the Tau in Dark Crusade. I enjoy both the Killing Blow and the Patient Hunter as styles I play with. When you play, you gotta get into the Tau mindset when you play as Tau.
You really do. Like that. That's truly like the primary victory of this game is that to really get good playing with the Tau because they have so many weaknesses. They have so many weaknesses that you are not used to having from other armies. Like a perfect example, right? Is that there's a lot of armies that are bad in melee, right? So there's like the Imperial Guard, right? They're not good in melee, but they have melee attacks. I like when this game started, and I'm pretty sure this is still true in the campaign as well. Many Tau infantry units do not even have a melee attack. They cannot do melee at all. So, but they still can't use their gun if they're engaged in melee. So if you get into melee with, for example, a Crisis Battlesuit, it'll just stand there. It'll not do anything. And this incredibly powerful and iconic unit will just get taken to pieces.
Yeah, look at the health bar on the Krutox unit that has been taking a ridiculous amount of fire already. And remember how quickly I chew through a lot of units with fire. And there's two of them. Oh, and there's the big Krut dinosaur.
And there's the T-Rex. I forget what it's called.
I'm going to look it up now so someone doesn't like
Trex. Captain.
Because my brain keeps saying Carnosaur, but it's like the Carnosaur is
That's not
is the
right.
name of the lizard man giant dinosaur. You can say I've
that's
just been
not right.
replacing units with things. It's the Gnarlock. That's why I couldn't remember. The Greater Gnarlock.
It's so weird. That's such a weird name.
Yeah. Like Knarloc, and it's the relic unit. So regardless of which post you build, you can build it, but you do need to build one of those posts, Montkar or Kuyon, before you can get it. And it's
I tended to fear seeing Crutoxes more, but I will like the general way it shook out for most of the development, right? Again, like anytime I talk about multiplayer applications of this, I'm speaking in very broad generalities because like Dark Crusade was out and was current for a rather long time. It was a number of years, and it was receiving updates, pretty much the multiplayer updates, pretty much the entire time. And like I mentioned a number of episodes ago, this was the time when like some of the worst imbalances came through, and the memes about Dawn of Eldar came around, and blah blah blah. But like, so I'm speaking in generalities here, but by and large, like the Tau were best benefited by going heavy ranged. Somewhat ironically, when you were already dealing with enemies that were powerful in melee. So you're fighting orcs, you're fighting chaos, you're fighting things like that, because you can still tar pit with Kroot, and and heavy melee units or heavy melee armies tend to have more of a problem with getting their models into the fray. So if you're able to use 3 times as much surface area, putting down your big hammerheads and everything, like you'll eventually be able to kill these things out of your tar pits. Whereas if you're fighting something like the Eldar or the Imperial Guard or even the Space Marines, really, you definitely want Crutoxes, like because they're going to be the ones that put your enemies on the back foot and allow you to capitalize.
Yeah, because you saw how long it took to kill one of those. It's actually kind of interesting. I'm gonna talk about the Greater Gnarlock for a second. In looking up his name, I've also discovered that in terms of like pound for pound combat ability, a properly health upgraded Greater Gnarlock will outfight literally every other relic unit in the game. Yeah, it doesn't have as much health, but it will still, even before its upgrade, it'll outfight a Squiggoth, and apparently, if you give it the upgrade, it will outlast a Bloodthirster. So
that is saying something.
That's kind of scary a little bit.
That's really scary. I believe it. Like I was never actually that good with the Tau. I understood them on a basic perspective. But I never really put them into practice the way I put for example the Space Marines, the Imperial Guard, and the Orcs into practice. Those were my 3 favorite races. Going back to something I was trying to say earlier. Was that when you understand your enemy and understand yourself is like one of the a paraphrase is one of the big things that goes back to what Pure Tide wanted Tau commanders to internalize, and the way that you got really good with the Tau was you also kind of internalized it. And obviously, I'm biting Sun Tzu when I say that, but like everybody heard how the Tower presented in the intro, right? Should not come as a surprise that Far Eastern influences are big. When it comes to
we talked about it the last thing as well with the hats. Well, I forgot to mention as well, most of their voice actors sound like they're doing different Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon seasons of Splinter.
Ah! yeah, that's about right, actually. Oh Lord, Crude Hound.
like I'm pretty I'm just trying to think which one's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which one's like the original '80s cartoon, which one's the more recent ones, which one's the most recent one. It's just like it's different shades of Splinter all the way down.
The freaking movies with like Vanilla Ice and everything. Holy crap! There's a freaking blast from the past. I'm having like half of that movie come back to me.
Go Ninja.
Oh my lord.
Right, so I think I was talking about how I think I was still talking about Xenology, wasn't I? Yeah. So the idea behind Xenology was
go ahead.
Getting back to it is essentially an Inquisitor turns up at this place and is like, look, dude, the guy who's in charge of this is a fucking heretic. We're shutting this shit down, and the person in charge of it's like, can I at least just let me finish off like the subjects we've got captured in here. You know, he's basically got like one of like a whole bunch of different races. You know, like an Eldar, some Tyranids, a ethereal, and other stuff. And he's like, you know, I wanna do the autopsies on them. I don't want like, you know, all this time and effort to go to waste. And so the Inquisitor's like, all right, you've got this amount of time. So most of Xenology is sort of split between the autopsy notes, which gives like fairly big drawings of like the anatomies of like Warhammer 40k like non-human creatures and things like that. So like orcs and things, and then also like the theories written down from what the autopsy person has sort of figured out. And then, like, you know, you also have like story bits in between and notes from the Inquisitor. If I'm getting the story correct, obviously, I will go back to Xenology and I'll look through it before we do our conversation.
We'll correct ourselves in the next episode if we get any details wrong. No need to berate us in the comments, okay?
Yeah. And so, and there's just this undercurrent plot about the last of the chambers that that this guy's kind of freaking out about, like. And like the Inquisitor's like, he keeps going on about the last chamber, but there's nobody in it. And the story ends with the guy, like the scribe, like the autopsy scribe guy, going over and opening the last chamber. And as the door slides open, all you see is like a Necron there. Yeah. Like, it's just like, well, I bet
now
I know how that
this,
ended.
Actually, like you were just you were retelling the story of basically how. You know, like the Inquisitor, or there was basically like, I think it was something like a few months to do all of the autopsies and get this thing done, and like I once you said that, I started remembering this. It's just like, oh right, at the end there's like this jump scare where it's just like the thing that everybody's most concerned about and most scared of is a Necron war form.
Yeah, it's a good story. I enjoy it, and I got the
really
special edition
well
of it. It's like I said, it's got a Kroot skin binding, and also comes with like a folder, like an inquisitorial folder, which has got just the artworks of the autopsies in them. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if like I'm pretty sure it's still sold by the Black Library or whatever they call themselves these days, so it's not lost media, so you can probably still get your hands on it if you like it.
I mean,
not the special edition, but like the regular edition.
Yeah, if you're the sort of person who appreciates the feel of something like that in your hands, like I do remember. Like, I don't even know what they used for the quote unquote Kroot skin, but I had a friend who was really big into Warhammer 40k and collected that sort of thing. Me personally, I have a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Minimalist view of my life. I don't have that many possessions besides like my computer and on my phone, and I like it that way. But I remember holding that Kroot skin thing and like not being able to identify the texture.
Yeah, it's made from real Kroot.
Yeah, it's just like I was just like, what the hell is this? And I that was an experience. I must have had that experience 15, 20 years ago at this point. And like all you needed to do was mention Kroot skin, and that came flooding back instantly.
Yeah.
Like it's such a really cool experience. So like if you're at all the sort of person who values that sort of thing, consider treating yourself. I'm just throwing it out there.
There's a lot of
yourself.
contention made about Xenology amongst different 40k fans about whether or not it's canon, but it's like, everything's canon until something else.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's basically my sense. God, we actually have now got a chance to give the Tau a taste of their own medicine, insofar as we have access to. God, look at that fucking mech! I love the battle suits.
Oh man, freaking Crisis battle suits! Like we were talking last episode about how like the blocky framework and the modularity of these what amount to standing tanks, because that's effectively what Crisis battle suits are, and it goes into how they don't even have a melee attack, right? They're effectively standing tanks. And it's just like the aesthetic is executed so beautifully well.
It's like I'll just finish this as like my troop. Now I've got the Necron thing that like makes all my troops stealth. Now their stealth troops don't know what to do with me as I wander around with my stealth Necron lord attacking them. But I was gonna say the thing about the way Tau like battle suit pilots and things are selected is actually kind of interesting. Essentially, how it works is that you after a certain period of time, as a fire warrior, you're sort of like they sort of look at you and they look at your battle history and they decide if you're good enough to like get better gear or even to like get upgraded. So if you've spent a bit of time as a fire warrior and you've acquitted yourself well, they run you through simulators and things like that to see if you're good enough to become a Shasui. Because it's like notice how at the start of every rank is Shas, SHAS. Everything beyond even the basic fire warrior is a Shasla, right? And like the Shasui is if they're not in the battle suit, they'll often be made a leader of a fire warrior team, and so they run the particularly potent Shasui through on using the battle suits. And battlesuit technology with the Tau, it leaps and bounds every single year. Like they've always got something new. They've always got something crazy coming out. But the Shasui, the basic troops of a Crisis battle team, because they're called Crisis battle suits, and the stealth teams, which are also a form of battle suit, it's worth noting, but they are like a smaller, compact stealth one. The basic troop is the Shasui, and the leader of those are the Shasvray. So, and if a Shasvray is good enough, they become. Hold on, I'm flicking through. They have a chance to become possibly a bodyguard for a commander. But at the same time, if they're good enough, they might be put up as a sub-commander or a chassel. And if and this is always after a few years in actual combat. That's when they do the promotion on you, or just or keep you where you are. And then a chassel may then be in turn upgraded to chasseur. And keeping in the fact that the average Tau lifespan is like 4 or 5, 40 or 50
decades.
Years. Like it's like that period for promotion is usually about 4 years.
Right. So like
unless you're amazing, in which case they fast track you like they did with Shadow Sun, Farsight, and I think Kais here.
Kais, yeah. And by the way, like just in case you think that that Robokai is just spouting made up words over there. Actually, no. Like all of those various ranks are in fact rooted in the nascent Tau language that has other stuff that has other meanings and so forth going on. Like it's a little bit different than from example like Klingon in Star Trek in that Tau doesn't have a like fully realized lexicon and everything, but it's about it's the closest thing to an original language that you're going to find outside of something Omega nerdy like Klingon. Like the amount of effort that went into making the the Tau unique and interesting in the Warhammer 40k world is genuinely impressive. I really appreciate the amount of thought that went into it, because it really does feel like there was somebody who minored in linguistics in college and was just sort of given the right to do whatever they want, and they would review it honestly in committee, which so rarely happens anywhere, let alone in large established companies.
I've always been very happy with how they did the Tau. Like they made them emergent and new in a galaxy where we thought we knew everything, and made it seem natural.
And in a setting where stagnation and stasis is literally written into everything that happens. Like it is one of the initial things that pretty much everybody learns about Warhammer 40k to start out with, is that stagnation, stasis, and eventual just rotting is the underlying theme of all of the grim darkness that you find. Because one thing that I run into a lot when introducing people to Warhammer 40k is, they inevitably want to go back to how dynamic and changey humans are, and just like, well, obviously humans have to keep changing, right? No, because the Imperium is such a terrible governmental system that they have somehow managed to destroy the human aptitude for change. And are there practical considerations for that? Absolutely. There are we talked about one such practical application for it in the Based on of War campaign, insofar as why does the Imperium not use more microcircuits and computers, and instead rely on these incredibly brutal servitor technologies that graft random bits of chrome to a human brain? It's because you could put out a new circuit, and you could use it for 200 years, and nothing could happen, and it makes everybody's lives great. But it just so happens to spell out the true name of a demon, of a powerful demon of Khorne or Slaanesh, and then 5 planets suddenly disappear in a chaotic miasma. Because that demon realized, oh shit, I've got a way in.
Yeah. It's it's something that's talked about in like one of the supplements, I believe, regarding different like chaos factions and stuff for the Dark Heresy role-playing game, when in its first edition, I believe. They have a bit that sort of goes in depth into just this concept of a particular architectural arch that can be constructed, or architectural shape that can be constructed, and just that thing's construction would allow one to just bring, like, if someone performed the correct rites with it, just bring in a giant demonic host in through it. So, like, the example of lore, when because they're all accompanied with like this particular Inquisitor's notes about them, and the first one is just talking about one in a cathedral. But one of the plot hooks is that what if it turns out that this entire summoning symbol is actually the entire layout of a city, but only viewed from like way above in like a perfect angle, which you suddenly realize that's what this thing is, and it's just a fucking demonic invasion waiting for the right cult to land and start.
Mm-hmm. And in the context of all of this, they managed to make a dynamic, highly and rapidly changing species that makes sense in the continuity. And as I strongly asserted last episode, are not Mary Sue's. They have their faults, they have their struggles, they have their complexities. And if you think otherwise, frankly, you're wrong. Get out of my face.
He's very strong opinions, but I did.
I'm sorry.
I did
like,
just
like,
recently
this
do a stream screaming at my chat about what orcs can and can't do, so I can't criticize in that regard.
Was I really screaming, or was I just
No,
getting like super paranoid again?
Oh
yeah, you were.
I was.
Yeah,
I
no,
was
I
in
remember
pain.
that,
I was in
actually.
pain.
Yeah, no, I like that. That was like I was getting super nerd alert in your chat, but like yeah, you were getting pretty mad at people for being. Chat was being stupid. I'm on your fucking side on this.
I was being play mad.
Yeah, but chat was being fucking stupid. I'm not sorry about this. Chat was being fucking stupid.
Yeah, well, I mean, it got fairly obvious when they said, "Oh, the only reason why Commissar Yarrick is like able to fight the orcs is because the orcs believe he can fight them." That was when I just started throwing things around my room, shrieking.
Yeah,
and crying.
no.
So,
fucking dumb.
So yeah, so we got like, and I think probably the best sort of example, I think, of how the how the Tau are flawed comes from, in no small part, Farsight himself. So we might as well talk about. Well, actually, before we talk about Farsight, let's get a little Necron in here. I feel it's actually very important we should talk about this, because this ties into Old Cron to New Cron retcon, where they talked about. Because I remember in previous Old Cron thing, I talked about how a Tyranid Hive fleet attacked a planet that the Tau were on, and suddenly the Necrons came out from the nearby moon and just wiped them out. And then the Tau were like, "Oh, hey, cool, let's hold a feast in the honor of these new friends that have turned up and saved us." And the Necrons wiped them out. Well, that's still canon, but it ties into a particular character named Anrakir. Anrakir the Traveler, who is an interesting he's an interesting character, because essentially we talked in the last Stronghold about how most of the charts that the Necrons have are completely fucked up. A lot of planets have been moved, and so like the Silent King is trying to go around trying to keep his people together as well. But aside from the orrery, which only gives like a map, it doesn't actually tell you like where everyone is. There's not like really any accuracy going on. And this is also the same conclusion that Anrakir came to when he awoke on his tomb world. He was the pharaoh of his own tomb empire, and he was like, shit, like if things are like this, we might be in danger. Like all our enemies might destroy us. And so Anrakir basically turned to like the next in charge and said, "You're in charge from now on. I'm taking like this group of warriors, this elite group of warriors, and I'm taking off. And we're gonna go around and see if we can't find all the tomb worlds and protect them. You know, if they're under threat, we'll activate them so that they can fight for themselves. That sort of thing." So he travels around the galaxy, basically getting everyone off the lawn, so that the tomb worlds don't get destroyed. And so that was the particular case of why he killed the Tau en masse, is simply because they were trespassing.
They were on the lawn.
They were on the lawn. And he actually was just like, he actually says to them, "Curse you for putting me to this inconvenience," because he doesn't want to fight if he doesn't have to, because he doesn't have like a tomb world that he can just draw on from. He feels his losses pretty significantly. To the point that he will often barter with like tomb worlds that he's awoken and saved for more troops, and if they don't give them to him, he'll often find some way to take some anyway. Because all you need to like take command of some Necrons is the command codes. The Silent King had command codes that allowed him to rule everybody. He destroyed them. So the Silent King basically just has to like, people have to, you know, have to behave. And I kind of like Anrakir's model, because he looks like he's got like a really heavy metal-plated Necrodermis battle skirt. So like, you know, it's basically look kind of like draped cloth, and so if he moves his legs out from under it, it's sort of like, you know, you just see his leg come out from under it, like bared, and he doesn't wear any dress up top, so it almost looks like he almost looks like a bare-chested Necron. It's like
I'm not actually familiar with this visual, so I'm just fucking drinking this in. It's great.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting. He's not like a major player in the grand scheme of things. He's just like another interesting character. But like, he's gotten into a few scuffles. He's probably the most likely character to bring different Necron special characters together to help. So like there's like he's worked with Trazen, he's worked with Orican the Diviner, a character I haven't talked about yet, but everyone can't wait for me to talk about. So I will probably talk about Orican in the next. Actually, we'll talk about Orican when we start butting heads with the Elder, because he has a few clashes with them himself, and I believe he's also engaged in battle again alongside the what's his face, the one I talked about being the one that sort of created the process for creating the Necron shells. Ceres.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, so he's worked alongside all of these characters, and we'll probably work alongside the Silent Guild. The Silent Guild and he'd be like, yes, I love this. Let's do this, King. So yeah, that was just something I probably thought was probably worth noting. Is that there's this kind of guy who looks like kind of looks like he's got a bit of the horror Lou going on, as he from Elden Ring, as a good descriptor. He looks like he's taken off like a big vest or something and let it drape around his legs. And just going, it's time for a bare-chested fight. But he's carrying a war scythe as well, and he has like a really weird-looking crown.
So much.
But yeah, he just, I always look at him and I'm always just like, yeah, he looks like a cool bare-chested psycho.
So fucking good.
Yeah. And he's got a weapon called the Tachyon Arrow, which is like a wrist-mounted gun that basically apparently has near infinite range. I would have to actually go up and look at his rules in the book, and I will do that before the next one to see if it actually has infinite range.
That sounds like one of the most frustrating things on the planet. Like you just friggin' deploy this guy in like the most extreme like
well, he can only fire it
corner
once.
you could.
He can only fire it once in a battle because apparently the act of shooting it overloads it, and like there has to go back and get repaired to prepare it for the next use. But apparently he can punch through a Titan with it.
Yeah.
This is just me desperate. Like, look how many fights I got going on at once in this. This is great. Like, this is a street fight.
This is like even more so than Victory Bay. Like this is urban combat, and like this is basically been a low key nightmare of mine for the better part like a decade.
Yeah, because it is important to note that when the Tau engage in combat, they don't the Tau don't have a concept of territory as something you have to fight to keep. When they engage in combat, it is simply a matter of whether or not they can overcome the enemy force and defeat it. For them, defeating the enemy gives you the terrain, and they are more prone to pulling back even in cases where like the terrain would be really, really good, like the resources in that particular area would be fantastic. And that's just like they just go, no, dog.
Yeah, and that does in fact work against them a couple of times in canon, but it's just again it's a very good way to subtly make this a distinct and interesting civilization in a universe that is defined by stagnation. Like the Tau are very much a matter of that enemy is shooting at us. They should not shoot at us. Okay, let us kill them. Precisely how they go about doing that largely doesn't matter. Like they have their various methods of conflict that they subscribe to, but even those are relatively loose. Like to crib a meme from Pirates of the Caribbean, they're supposed to be more like guidelines than actual rules.
Because we talk about Kayun. This entire fight is a very large example of Kayun. the ethereal here is the target, and knowing that it's the target, they draw everyone in. The actual civilians of this city would have already been evacuated by this point, because that's what the Tau do.
Right.
They will delay an enemy force that's heading towards one of their cities, or attempt to divert through like feints or like applications of Kayun, try to get somebody to like not go towards the city while they get everybody out. But once they get it out, they treat the city like they would like a canyon or something, or like a forested terrain. They pick their spots and they just use it as terrain to fight in, because they know they can just come back and rebuild it, because the Tau are very good at building things very quickly.
Right, like that. That's part of what goes into it, because the ethereal cast has hyper specialized so many of the other casts into more or less savants of their specific things. They couldn't care less about expending resources that other races wouldn't even consider, and because they're so young, they don't have the concept of ancient lost tech that gives things that gives races like or civilizations like the Imperium so much of an attachment to various places.
Yeah, it's like there's no like one of a kind refinery thing that they don't understand, that that they use to like get fuel for like half the ships in the system. There's a like critical infrastructure that strong. The Tau. In fact, in the game Gladius, which is when you play as the Tau, you get a bonus to the general order of the Tau cities that you build. If you've only got one of each kind of building in there. You get like so you get a bonus if you've only got like one troop building, one resource gathering building of a particular kind, and like doubling them up does make them more efficient. But for the periods where you don't have that, you've got this bonus to your control of the region, which again gets you more output from those things.
Yeah, and even just as important as all that, there's no such thing as an Imperator Titan. The entire MacGuffin of Winter Assault.
Team Sigma, they are targeting the array to disrupt your stealth fields. Fall back.
Yeah, so now we have access to the middle MacGuffin, and now this makes our job a little easier, because we can just drop this thing on top of the enemy, and we can see their invisible units. I think in Soulstorm, the Imperial Guard actually get a similar ability.
I played Soulstorm for all of 20 minutes, so I wouldn't know.
I only know because the computer uses it constantly if you fight them. And they'll always use it directly upon your command building, thereby wasting it completely. Because it's like, yeah, you found me. Okay, yeah, you found me. I'm still here. Yep, I'm still here, buddy. But the big prize is the relic thing, because now we can build the monolith. Because I didn't particularly want to have to go into the killing blow without my big booms.
Yeah, because the killing blow ethos obviously, like Roboguy was talking about it earlier. You keep a large force in reserve, and then use it when the time is precisely correct. But the thing about assaulting a killing blow base is that they have a large force in reserve.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm like, I need to talk about, because you did mention they don't have a Titan, and so they definitely do not have the same sort of problem of lost tech and things to motivate them. They actually when the game first came out, so when the Tau first came out, they didn't have like a super giant robot like they do now. They've got like this battle suit that they call the let's see if I can get its name. Was it the XV-104? No, that's not right.
I think it. I can't. I know it's XV something.
They actually have a lot more variants now. Just clicking around, there's actually good lord, some of these things are like, they look like Rob Liefeld drew Captain America and then put cannons on his back, and that's amazing. That's not That's not a criticism. Some of these things look like
That's
the Tau.
awesome.
The Tau played a little bit of Mech Warrior too, because they're still got like the Tau designs and shapes and everything like that. But then someone's like strapped 2 giant racks of like nothing but missiles on either side where the arms should be.
Oh yeah, so basically they saw a catapult and was just like, yeah, that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, that's pretty good. God.
alright.
That's like what is that? They call that the KV-128 Storm Surge. So they've actually got a lot of giant robots now. Like a lot of they still call them battle suits, which is really funny. And also Google image search just gave me a Tau battle suit that has like feminine hips and breasts, and there's like a little Tau warrior being very excited in the corner. So there's that as well. Thanks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like I
things
get
I
the feeling
needed.
that there's some Firecast that is super happy to be there. And that is a good clarification by the way. I didn't mean to imply that they don't have giant robots.
Oh yeah,
Giant robots
oh
are
no,
insanely
I
fucking
was
Tau.
just going to point out the difference in the doctrine, because originally those things didn't exist. So what they actually
Mm-hmm.
used for hunting titans were these things called the Manta missile destroyers. And the Manta missile destroyers are essentially super heavy dropships that can apparently carry, according to this, anywhere between 50 to 100 Tau, which is usually what they class as like a full hunter cadre. So that's like a full force of fire warriors could be put into this thing, and it can actually travel in space to a small degree. It's like the codex literally says that it's on the borderline between an attack craft and a full starship, and. And yeah, and it's just armed with gigantic railguns, and this thing just flies into battle, and just shoots the shit out of your stuff. Of course, they've since changed that doctrine to start building, as they've started to face probably things like the Imperium and like more defensive enemy structures and things like that. They've started to develop things like the Riptide, which I believe was the original. I believe the Riptide was the original giant robot. It's basically a very buff-looking crisis suit, and way taller. And then, of course, we start seeing the KX-13. I don't even know if this is like a conversion or not. It says it's on a Warhammer 40k wiki, so I'm going to assume it's real. But it's the KX-134 Tornor Supremacy Armor, which is the Rob Liefeld one where. Let's just take a look at this. It says, as a standard, it mounts a large triple-barreled pulse ordnance multi-driver, which I don't know what that is, as its main weapon. And then, apparently, it just has ion cannons, triple ion cannons on each arm, apparently to be exchanged with fusion eradicators. Because they use a lot of pulse weaponry, and they use a lot of fusion weaponry. So, like, I guess pulse being like pulse lasers, and fusion weapon being basically just like sort of stable plasma technology, you might call it. Which is really funny because when you look at the Crute and they've still got like these like crappy muskets with like knives on them tied to them. It's just like, wow. And they look over and there's these guys just like with like the fusion eradicator on a giant robot. And it's just like, okay.
Can we also talk about the 9, 18, 27, 36 missile tubes it functionally has for abs?
Yeah. Oh, you looked it up too. Yeah, it's got it's got pectoral missiles as well. And apparently they're called twin smart missile systems.
The thing that I love most, particularly with the Rob Liefeld sort of thing, is that the way they're positioned, it is literally this mech's abs.
Yeah.
Like this thing did not skip core day.
He's got a smart missile pack.
It's so freaking good.
Yeah, like, you know what? So if you really like giant robots in like goofy dynamic poses, you could do worse than the Tau.
You can do a lot worse than the Tau.
It's so I actually love all of these designs. I imagine a lot of people were just probably like, but I'm like, yeah.
If you can't appreciate something like this for the sheer joy that went into it, I don't think I want to know you. I think I just don't want to know you.
Yeah, and I mean, the things like that is just an extrapolation. Even like the big, this Tau is just like a big chunky boy that's like 90% guns. That's still very well in brand with the Tau broadside battlesuit, which is actually like you've seen it in a few sequences here already, but in the intro you saw there were 3 of them with the street fighting section, and before the fighting started, you saw them sort of stamp their feet a little, and then like bring their 2 big railguns they've got down.
They're basically siege tanks if you you played friggin' StarCraft.
They're the closest thing you can get to a powerful late game turret, and they are armed with twin linked railguns, and also missile packs for arms. So they are a supremely good. And see, this again, this ties into the Kuyon part of the battle strategy, because you're going to want to deploy those guys ahead of time to get the most use out of their incredibly beautifully long-ranged cannons, like their railgun cannons. And so you're going to want to drag your enemy into a position, and as the enemy approaches, deploy them so that they don't fire too soon. And then when they get into position, you've got them at a probably medium range, so as they try to leave, they're still just getting the absolute hell blown out of them. So a lot of your timing is down to when you deploy them. And so like I said, you again it goes back into this idea. You've got the patient hunter in the form of deployable, like they're like super heavy turrets, because as we've stated, the Tau don't hold territory for the most part, so they don't get they'll turrets.
Hold territory later, basically.
They'll wipe out the enemy and then they'll move in. Is basically it. Like they don't look at that sort of thing.
We'll
until
worry
the
about
job's
that
done.
later.
Yeah. Oh god. And we haven't actually talked about it much, but we might as well talk about it as well before I get too far ahead of ourselves, because we're talking about their tech and everything like that.
Sure.
We never really spoke too much about the fact that this guy, that's a path.
Poor asshole.
He knows not to go anywhere.
He's the one who's got to live with it, but only for a few more minutes, because I'm pretty sure that monolith is about to blast him into smithereens.
No, I think I'm going to leave him be. Like, I thought about it, I might have thought about teleporting to him and just, fucking him up, but then it would have taken even longer to get anywhere.
No.
But they've got their, Tau also have very advanced drone technology. So, and this was before, these things were designed really before the concept of the drone in a modern warfare style of format was sort of really catching hold in the world itself.
Oh yeah, this was before Predator drones were a thing IRL.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, and so essentially what you've got are these little short grav flotation devices. They're like little discs with just guns taped to them. And they are essentially, before the Crute, you might have thought of them as being the thing that might be, there to bear the brunt of the enemy's first wave of assault or whatever. But at the same time, it's actually more properly used to pin enemies into position with violence, and then revive. So just look at the damage that hammerheads manage. Luckily, hammerheads are incredibly brittle, and my monolith is spitting out heavy destroyers who will do most of the heavy lifting here.
Hammerheads.
Hammerheads? Well, I mean, you look at the range on it. Again, that's the other thing, is the railgun range is ridiculous. So it often pays to have Crute advancing into the enemy lines anyway, because then you can see the enemy and shoot them from a full screen away. A screen and a half of full cream dairy railgun. Right down the throat.
On a related note, with regard to Tau ambushes, with how Robokai was talking about how to ideally use the broadside battle suits, I just want to point out one of the brilliant pieces of design in Dawn of War that got leveraged for Tau is the stance button. Right, we've seen the stance button on these heavy destroyers right here. It's a blue gun, right, and that basically means, hey, you should attack at range whenever possible. Blah blah blah. That is one of the things that, to the best of my knowledge, Dawn of War did first, and it's one of those things that you don't touch that much as most races. But you definitely touch it as Tau, especially when you're using the patient hunter, precisely because you're suckering people in, and then you're going to hit the squad key. Let's call it 3 key, and then you're going to hit that stance button, and it's going to go from hold fire to range stance. All of those hammerheads, all of those broadside battle suits are going to rip open all at once.
Yeah. And it's,
I've been on the receiving end of it. It sucks.
And you know, the stealth suits also might be operating in a position of not attacking as well. Like I will when I play Tau in the opening stages of the game, I set my Tau stealth suits to don't shoot. And so that way, even if the enemy and I bump into each other, they don't see me. I know they're there. I don't
literally
tip
will not notice you.
I do not tip my hand at all as to the fact that I'm there. I may even follow them for a little bit, just to see where they're going and what they're trying to take. Because I love having more information than my opponents, and I'm also not fond of committing too soon if I can help it. God, this is a hell of a thing to walk up, which is why the Necron Lord going Nightbringer mode after attracting everyone's attention is
Protect Arnell at all costs.
Yeah, that's
These creatures have no souls at all.
I'm surprised they never fixed that. Wrong characters, wrong portraits. Oh, no.
Oops.
Oh dear. I will say though, we've actually managed to fill an hour and 10 minutes talking about Tau, and we haven't really run out of things to talk about.
We've just been gushing the entire time. And it hasn't been difficult at all.
Yeah, because one of the interesting things about the drones is that often drones will also be attached to vehicles, and they will detach from the vehicles to attack. And some weapon systems on vehicles use drones as well. And I believe there's actually and this cracks me up, but there might even be a single Earthcast Tau with Farsight, who is actually pretty much as old as Farsight is and hasn't died. And it's not because of the reasons Farsight is still alive. We'll talk about Farsight, don't worry about it. But the actual, because I believe there's still like one more mission where we'll be fighting the Tau after this, because they hold another important territory, I do believe. But it's kind of funny because he has nano drones in his bloodstream. So he, rather than call them nano machines, because they call their autonomous machines that perform functions drones, he has nano drones, son. Not nearly, like, and I guess in in its own way, the fact that the Tau are so bad at close combat, will never get a revengeance meme involving nanodrones.
We could get a Kroot in there, I guess. Like, I would consider that worth it. Like, yeah, friggin'. One thing that has become very obvious as you and I have continued doing this is that that a lot of our Let's Plays have very long-tailed appeal for a lot of people. So I'm certain that somebody's going to be watching this, you know, a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. I will say, for historical reference, Revengeance memes have seen a huge resurgence around the time that we're recording this, and I absolutely love it. And there's genuine pain in my voice when I say we're not going to get like Croots of Nature. I think that's never going to happen, and I'm genuinely sad about that.
And there he is. There's the ethereal back there. Ethereals have an interesting sort of function in the Tau on the tabletop, in that they basically, like, no one is gonna like break when an ethereal is around, more or less. But by that same token, when one dies, everybody has to take a leadership test.
Yeah.
So in essence, that's the same thing on the tabletop here, in that an ethereal cast member on the battlefield will make your nearby troops immune to morale, but if he dies, they pretty much lose morale instantly. So, it's in functionality, he's a bit of a combat caster. He can construct holographic troops, which does lead to probably my favorite bug in the game that I think they patched out. But you used to be able to, for some reason, if you made a hologram of a Pathfinder unit, we'll talk about them like when I play as it, but we'll just talk about this glitch now. They could jump pack, and what would happen is they would T-pose with their gun coming out of their crotch and your faction flag on their back, and just fly across the top of the battlefield. I can't imagine how much that was confusing to people who played against me, because I would do it every time. Every time.
I never saw that. I never saw that in action.
They patched it out, I believe.
I
which was
I feel
the saddest thing.
like I've missed out on a slice of history.
Because imagine, how would you feel if like a bunch of Tau T-posed and floated at you across the
I don't know how, like, intimidated? I would definitely feel, like, let's start there. Let's start with intimidation.
God, I love the battle damage of the pristine square, by the way. A lot of locations in Dawn of War, you don't get that much of a sense of, oh god, we're wrecking everything, and it does fade over after a while. But like where like the fight's really thick, like there, suddenly this, you know, this clean square is like covered in blood and pockmarked with scorches and everything. It's so good. Like this game is a visual feast, even now, like a million years after release.
Oh man.
And even, you know, the day that, like, you know, like I'm confined as a head in a containment tank just doing commentary over like video games. Like I'm still gonna be like, this is beautiful.
It's so
and I'm just doing this
effective.
as a flex.
It's a pretty good flex though.
Yeah. Up and at 'em, boys.
Huh, alright.
He's got nowhere to go. His bodyguard really should have like run in front of him though. And yeah, see, instantly broken.
They're hoping to just break and run away.
Onel is dead. We cannot win.
Fall back, now! All forces, fall back. Evacuate the city. We will return, Onel, to Tau for burial. There is nothing left for us here.
In the clash between the young Tau Empire and the ancient evil of the Necrons, antediluvian determination won out over youthful exuberance. For all the tactical skill of Commander Okais, the Necron wave was unstoppable, and they purged Asharis just as they had all other regions before it. The retreat of the Tau forces left the remaining civilian population of Asharis unprotected from the Necron purge. Once their cold-blooded slaughter completed, however, the Necrons simply abandoned the city and its surrounding communities to the ages. Automated vid systems still broadcast images from the desolate streets, the bleached bones of Tau, Kroot, and humans lying still in the ash-strewn streets.
Never thought I'd hear antediluvian said in a sentence.
Antediluvian determination is definitely like a cool band name. Like I'm making mental notes on that one, buddy.
We'll go with bigger shoulders.
Antediluvian determination. Yowza.
Ah, so that's the Tau Stronghold. The we've done. We didn't actually kill Okais, so I don't know. Like we stole like a spare helmet and filled it with jam, I guess. And don't worry, like I said, we'll talk more about like how the actual Tau themselves play, like in a real sort of in-depth thing. Because at the end of once we've defeated the Necron campaign, I go back and I do the Necron Stronghold as the Tau, and it's a long mission too. And a mess. So we will definitely have plenty of time to crack open the codex again and talk about those units in particular detail. But God, yeah. So this has just left the Orcs, the Eldar, and the Space Marines remaining, and I believe next on our list will be the Orcs.
They are closest.
Yeah, so Gorguts is gonna have to get ready because we're coming for him, and And we're definitely 100% going to have a fake head covered in jam ready for him. So that's then. I think I've taken enough of everybody's time. So I've been the Last Robokai.
And I have been Cool Guy.
And we'll see you all next time.